Hello, folks from the Northern Cape. This is Chris. I tell you, I think that Audra Basson has got competition for Mumpara of the Week. The latest is an article from Qaanitah Hunter, who has this habit of saying things that are really borderline, well, race hustling, quite frankly. And this is what she says today, talking about an op-ed, the uncomfortable truth about the fight against redress. Now, the good news with this article is that at least News24 has the courtesy to put this on their opinion page and not list it as news, as they did with the previous story that I commented on. So, what is she talking about here? Well, this has issue to do with the transformation effort, which is really just racism disguised as righting historical wrongs. It's not even remotely righting historical wrongs. And after 30 years of patronage and theft and corruption, Qaanitah Hunter wants to blame Helen Zillow for the ANC's failure and claims that the DA is a racist party with her race hustling. Let's delve into this silly story. The analysis by the paper itself is that it's about milking the current depressed economic environment to build the case against transformation, is what Qaanitah Hunter claims. Interesting. She said that she read Noam Chomsky, who wrote something and made her sit up straight. He reflected that in 1994, formal apartheid ended to maintain the economic structure of the economy. Now, that's an argument that's been made repeatedly without any substance or proof or evidence whatsoever. The poll that went to white South Africans wasn't, would you like to maintain the economic order and white economic predominance over black South Africans? The question was whether they were willing to change the system because it was morally bankrupt. That was the question in the poll. And had nothing to do with this statement here. So the argument here is that apparently must be that the elites set this system up so they could perpetuate their wealth into perpetuity. If so, how is that different than any other country? Anyway, she writes, this gentleman Popley put it more bluntly, white South Africans were persuaded to give up their racist ideology to keep their economic privileges. Well, first off, that's a racist statement. Most whites weren't racist. And they didn't have privileges that she's talking about here. Many people did. But no one was persuaded to give up their privileges for economic advantage. And she says it's not radical or controversial statement. It's a matter of fact. Really? Where's the fact? You don't offer any facts here, Qaanitah Hunter, in the statement. You say it's a fact. Okay, where? I realize it's your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. But where's this fact you're talking about? Where's the empirical data that confirms what you're saying? Please. Inquiring minds want to know. Show us where the factual information is. The fact that it's a fact is, in fact, your opinion, not a fact. Perhaps you need to look up a dictionary and discover what the word fact means. A fact isn't something that Qaanitah Hunter believes in. She says, we often forget that it is not the mere consequence of apartheid. The economy largely remains in the hands of the minority of the population. It does, in the hands of black and white South Africans primarily. Indeed. A very wealthy and enriched coterie of black elites and wealthy white folks control most of the economy. And your point is? Far more black people control that wealth now than white people. Yes, only a small proportion of the white population controls that wealth. Since taking power, the ANC has long argued that transformation must be deliberate, legislated, and targeted. Of course they have. That's racist. And they're race pushing. She says, but there is no doubt the vehicles it sought to implement redress have been blunt, ineffective, and in the last 15 years bastardized to justify corruption and rent-seeking. Well, that part she got right. So what's her beef with the DA? Well, let's get to that. She says, indisputably, the ANC's failure to push for effective reform is the issue here. Effective reform. So what is effective reform, Qaanitah Hunter? Instead of a rising boat lifting all tides and increasing wealth for South Africa and growing its economy, your objective is what? To impoverish white South Africans? Are you on some kind of revenge tour? Is that what this is about? So my response to this is that this is not the consequence of ANC inaction or failure to press for reform, but rather it is the ANC's rent-seeking, theft, incompetence, patronage, bigotry of low expectations, and dumbing down the population with abysmally low education standards, their negligence, racist black economic empowerment, race hustling, and a host of other self-serving shortcomings that are too long to detail in this video. She says that the DA has persistently argued when challenging cater deployment that the ANC's reform efforts would only benefit a select few of the politically connected elite. Well, that's true. History shows us that's the case. But she says now the DA is changing the goalpost, saying that 2025, the mood has changed and the narrative goes further. So what's the fear here? Well, What we have long warned the ANC of has arrived. Oh, are the evil racist on the march, Qaanitah? She says the Zondo Commission is a political weapon for the DA Talon Bezuidenhout, who said crudely that redress means state capture. Crudely? Well, that's your analysis. She says the party, the DA, has slowly been revealing its true sentiment. What's their true sentiment? Qaanitah Hunter says that in another world, the legal challenge would be an academic exercise necessary to gain legal clarity on whether quotas imposed by the Minister of Labor are constitutional or not. However, the political environment and the growing trend fueled by Elon Musk and his wannabes prove this DA action may not be as innocuous politically. What? How did Elon Musk get in the conversation, Qaanitah Hunter? You people are obsessed with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. This is a South African issue. It has nothing to do with it. Nothing. She does say that it feeds into the growing popular sentiment, which is frankly rooted in white supremacy, whose facade has been removed. Oh, no, we've revealed the white supremacists. Do they work for News24? That any redress efforts were reverse racism and targeted white people. Okay, Qaanitah Hunter, there's no such thing as reverse racism. Racism is racism. You can't reverse it. The narrative that it is reverse racism when it affects white folks implies that only white people are capable of racism, which is in and of itself a racist position to begin with. All human beings are capable of racism. That's the sad part of reality. But using the term reverse racism is simply implying that white people are the only ones capable of it, and that this must be some new phenomenon. Racism is racism, done and dusted. And then she continues, and if Zilla and the DA are not careful, it can border on the spot that any effort to push for equity was tantamount to promoting black incompetence. Of course, that's not exactly what Svat was. She said the ANC must live up to the reality that not only has it let down the millions of economically disenfranchised black South Africans in the past 30 years by not ensuring effective transformation and by allowing genuine transformation to be hijacked, but it has let down any future generations too. It's not about uplifting black South Africans. It's about stealing from the productive part of society to a rich, connected elite. That's what it's about. Transformation is a joke. How do you transform South Africa's economy and the economic prospects of black South Africans who lived in poverty under apartheid? Well, for one, you don't lower education standards so that people are functionally illiterate when they graduate high school and they have expectations that are unreasonable. That's number one. Number two, you ensure public safety so that people can go about their business in security on a daily basis. You don't allow rampant gangsterism, construction gangs, construction mafia, taxi gangs, taxi mafia, executions, assassinations, murders of whistleblowers, theft of state funds, rampant crime, kidnappings, rapes, murders. You don't allow that. You put effective policing in place. So you don't lower education standards, and you don't allow crime to take over the country. Transformation efforts are now a metaphor for looting and not a necessary tool to address racialized poverty. Racialized poverty? That in itself is a race hustling statement. Black, white, and brown South Africans live in poverty. The complete bigotry to ignore the poverty of others, assuming or claiming that only black South Africans live in abject poverty, is disgusting and vile. Transformation should have been education and public safety, not this nonsense. Well, once again, News24 leads with a race hustling article meant to divide South Africans at a time when people need to be brought together. The answer here is not quotas. The answer here is not to take from those who are successful and impoverish them. The answer here is to have two-parent families, to teach respect for the rule of law, to punish transgressors with effective policing and effective courts, and stop the race hustling. Raise the education standards to a reasonable level. Do not send children into the workforce who are functionally illiterate, who have expectations of something they're not entitled to. There's your answer. You want transformation? Get rid of the communists. Get competent political leaders in place to develop policies that benefit South Africans, and stop talking black and white. It's black, white, and brown. All South Africans matter. Not just your favorite class, Qaanitah Hunter. All South Africans matter. What say you, South Africa? Cheers.